Dark psychology. Let us talk about emotional intelligence and psychology. With the basic out of the way, it is time to begin discussing emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is incredibly trendy these days, and for great reason. Emotional intelligence itself has been used in several capacities even before it was ever defined. It determines whether you are able to interact well with others or whether people will like you. It determines your successes as well as how you move forward in improving in the future. Ultimately, nearly every behavior that you have is believed to be rooted in some way to your emotional intelligence, particularly from a cognitive perspective. Essentially, if your emotional intelligence acts as a driving motivator, you can begin to predict how people will behave based on how emotionally intelligent they are. What holds true, no matter how much or little emotional intelligence someone has, it is primarily a skill set. And as a skill set, it can be developed and learned over time. You can learn to become emotionally intelligent even if you are not naturally. You can spend the time to develop these skills in order to become the emotionally intelligent individual that you wish to be. Within this presentation, I will discuss what emotional intelligence is, touching upon the main purposes of emotional intelligence. What are the purposes of emotional intelligence? The pillars of emotional intelligence, and how emotional intelligence relates to psychology concepts such as emotions, empathy, and communication. As you read through this presentation, try to think about yourself. Do you have these skills that are being discussed above in this presentation? Do you feel like you are lacking in the empathy department, or perhaps that your communication could be better? If you think that you may struggle with your emotional intelligence, this is perhaps one of the most straightforward parts of this video presentation. Now, let us define emotional intelligence. Well, before we begin, let's create a working definition of emotional intelligence. Primarily, emotional intelligence is the ability to do three things. And what are those three things? It involves being able to understand emotions, regulate your own emotions, and use the ability to understand emotions to manage and facilitate your relationships with other people. When you are emotionally intelligent, effectively, you are able to actively harness these abilities in order to achieve a high leadership potential. When you have that high leadership potential, you find that you are more capable and confident when you interact with other people. Effectively, Emotional intelligence is largely able to determine whether you are able to understand your own emotions while still being able to regulate and influence the emotions of others as well. This skill is one that is critical to interpersonal relationships for several reasons. It determines how you approach other people. It determines how you are able to communicate with other people. It determines how likely you are to being annoyed by other people's actions or inactions. Emotional intelligence is effectively the pinnacle of emotional maturity. When you learn to be emotionally intelligent, you are resilient and in control. You will be able to manage those difficult emotions such as anger or sadness. You will be able to sense these signals in other people as well as act accordingly in order to help mitigate the negative effects or behaviors. You will be able to solve conflicts with other people with ease, and you will be just in tune enough with other people's emotion to ensure that you are always helping people in the way that they need. People who are highly emotionally intelligent are incredibly skilled when it comes to being able to interact with other people. And this makes them incredibly desirable in relationships, workplaces, and as leaders. When you are emotionally intelligent, people will naturally flock to you as they feel that you are trustworthy, confident, and charismatic enough to be a proper leader. Now, what are the pillars of emotional intelligence? Ultimately, one of the simplest methods of understanding emotional intelligence and the skills it entails is through looking at emotional intelligence as a series of pillars. These are source of clusters of behavior that we look at in order to get a better idea of the skills they entail. Emotional intelligence is commonly considered to have four pillars of emotional intelligence: self awareness, self regulations, social awareness, and emotional regulations. Each of these four pillars of emotion is critical to understanding if you ever hope to master emotional intelligence for yourself. Don't forget, the four pillars of emotional intelligence are self awareness, self regulation, social awareness, relationship management. Having said this, I know you will like to know more about emotional intelligence. In my next video, I would like to explain the four pillars of emotional intelligence in details. If you want to learn more about psychology, about dark psychology, about depth psychology, follow us on this handle. You will come to understand more about psychology and emotional intelligence. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching our videos. Thank you so much for your patience to follow. It is part of that emotional intelligence to make out time to listen and follow some topics. I appreciate your patience. Thank you.